Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Tauntalk. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Clarisa.
And I'm Isabelle. And yeah, this is Tauntalk, guys. I got my
Welcome.
baby Yoda.
Welcome back. Baby Yoda is joining us today. If you are watching on YouTube, Baby Yoda is here. If you're listening, just know that he is. Or she.
Actually, we don't know. We don't know.
So I just wanted to start off this week saying, as always, it's an exciting time to be a Star Wars fan. That's just a given. But in the last week, Star Wars Squadrons dropped, and it's on PC. It's pretty much, is it on all platforms? I'm not sure. Don't know.
Yeah, it's on all platforms.
And everyone's been playing it. The hype was crazy. Everybody was really excited to play it. Unfortunately, I don't play video games.
And neither do I.
Yeah, so we are not video game people. Nothing against it. I totally would. It just makes me sick. Like, I get motion sickness, unfortunately.
And I'm just bad at playing video games, so I just don't.
I never know what to do during video games, so
I can't. The screenshot when Rebels it's not Rebels, it's Squadrons. I'm just calling it Rebels because why? Hera Syndulla. That one screenshot of her, she looks so good. The animation looks so nice. And yeah, I'm happy for everyone that's enjoying the game.
I tweeted that the other day. I was like, I'm just excited for people's excitement, because it's always nice when there's something positive in the Star Wars community going on, and
that is few and far between.
Yeah, so we appreciate it and take it where we can. It's a win. And the trailer for it was really awesome. So even I got hyped around it, even though I wasn't going to play. But really, I was excited because it was going to introduce another storyline. It was going to introduce new characters. It's going to add to the lore. And I know that there was a ton of characters added. The writer of the video game was talking about new characters. And, the more we get to know these new people in the galaxy, then the more possibilities there are for spin-offs or shows or another video game, something like that, because there's never enough characters in the galaxy to learn about.
Exactly. And I love how, like, with supplementary material, they can pop up in, the main stuff too. And obviously, like last time when we talked about Mando, we're going to have a lot of Rebels characters and Clone Wars characters coming back in. So it's kind of exciting to see that, even if it's just like in a video game and not everyone, plays it and stuff, but it still adds more to Star Wars, which is what we love so much.
It could be a deep cut. It could be a reoccurring character that, again, pops up in the second season of Mandalorian. We never know what we're going to get in the future as far as shows or books or games or movies. So just adding another story helps, and it never hurts. So it's pretty exciting. Talking about Hera, because we keep calling the video game Rebels when it is Squadrons.
We're like, it's Rebels.
Because Hera is in it, it's Rebels.
Exactly.
We were just discussing before recording that she is such an underrated character. A lot of people have not watched Rebels, and she is just, like you said, Isabelle, the space mom. Everyone's space mom. I want her to be my pilot. I mean, she's pretty much up there with Poe Dameron. She's incredibly skilled. She has a great story in Rebels and in her timeline, and what she brings to the Rebels. I mean, her squadron, her skills, her, intelligence, the love she has for her family, all that just fuels and adds to her character.
Exactly. I love her so much. And honestly, she's the one storyline. I know Rebels is about Ezra and, when it comes to the main plot, but I love Hera so much. And I've only, I'm going to get flamed for this, but I'm only at season 3. It's been several more days. I don't know how many, whatever. But yeah, I'm still in season 3. I'm getting through, you guys. It's
hard because I don't want to spoil anything.
Feel free to spoil it because I do know what happens.
What happens with Hera then?
Vaguely. Yes, I do. I kind of know the ending. And it hurts so much. It hurts. Star Wars hurts. We love Star Wars, but it hurts so much all the time.
Yes. If you haven't watched Rebels, skip this little part because it's just a spoiler, and I really want to talk about it because Rebels is so close to my heart. But her relationship with Kanan is so amazing. They're both so skilled, and are on the same level. Him, a Jedi, her just a pilot. They are such a power couple, and for Hera to lose Kanan, but still confess their love to each other, and then lose him, and then yet have his child, I only have just love and appreciation. It was so tough to see the ending. I mean, it was a happy ending anyways. You know, she takes off with her son, but to have Kanan's son, who knows? Even
I
that,
just feel like, you know, why they're a power couple is because, like, there's, like, not many Star Wars couples that stay together or, like,
true.
live. I know he didn't live, but, like, there's not many that, you know, make it through. They,
Do we
like,
even have a
actually.
couple that has made it through? I don't think we do.
No, Ben's dead. Give me a
I mean,
minute.
we lost Padme. Ben died. I mean, I guess
Padme got the big sad from
we can
Tauntalk.
count them as a couple. Then,
I'm not
I
a.
mean, Leia and Han, I mean, split anyways
They
before
split.
either one. They did. I mean, they didn't last.
I
They
think
were
my
separated.
my love for Kanan and Hera is because, you know, they're the only stable relationship in Star Wars that I have seen.
Honestly, they support each other so much. Whenever he meditates, because he just has to find himself and know what's best for himself and to teach Ezra, she knows exactly what to say. He is there for her, like during the arc of her, you know, going back to save her family or like pieces from her family that were
That's what I left off
taken
of.
by the Empire.
The
Oh, okay.
Calicori episode.
Yes,
I
yes. She
love
has
Thrawn. Sorry, this is separate. I love Thrawn, yo.
Thrawn is an episode on his own. He can. I'm hoping they bring him live action into something, but he is so good. You for me personally, because I'm so against the Empire, I hate to love him so much because he's such a good
Exactly.
character and he's so smart. But and he's smart is what it is. So he's not a dumb imperial like general who takes orders and then gets beat by the
And
rebels.
you guys know, if you watched Rebels, any person who's animated without their eyes and just the Imperial cap, they will die. They will die and they will lose.
All those guys are
But
just
Thrawn doesn't wear the, you know, the what I love to call the Star Wars death cap because,
those are
you
all
know,
extra, man. Those guys are not going to live very
I
long.
know, no. But yeah, he's super smart, and I just love how, you know, more aliens in Star Wars. I want to see more aliens live action too.
Oh, always. I mean, speaking of Hera, I mean, she's brought back in the video game, but she should totally be brought out in something else, or at least as an old lady, as an old Twilight. Like her son could be force sensitive because Kanan was totally
Hmm.
good, or be a pilot and follow in the steps of his mom. I think if they ended Rebels with them going after Ezra, and if they found Ezra and Ezra is older now and so is Hera's son, that he follows Ezra and now Ezra trained him if he was force sensitive.
And then Ezra gets blind.
No, I don't wish on that. I don't wish that on Ezra, but it totally could happen. I mean, I
Oh,
think it'd be such an amazing thing for Ezra to train Kanan's son.
yeah,
That would be such an
absolutely.
amazing storyline. But again, there's so many different possibilities in characters and storylines that we could get. And I wanted to mention that in Rogue One, we got that Easter egg of Hera's name being dropped.
Which I adored, and I that was before, obviously, because I mean I barely got into Rebels, like, I don't know, whenever that first interview came out, guys. I was on season 2. It's been a while. It's been a while. But I remember watching Rogue One and I was like, ooh, Syndulla, I let me look that up because it's probably important. Because, you know, in Star Wars, whenever someone says anything, chances are it's not a throwaway line. It's something vaguely
Always.
important. And so I was like, oh, cool. Oh, cool. Like that was neat. And I love when they do little Easter eggs like that. I know sometimes people are like, there's too many. And I'm like, it's Star Wars. It makes sense.
There's so many deep cuts. There's never too many Easter eggs. I mean, we're on the topic of timelines, and so many of them intertwine. It's
Exactly.
insane. It was nice to get that little name drop for Hera because, I mean, the timeline of Rogue One is not too far off from Rebels.
Hmm.
So it only made sense. I mean, it's not too
It's
far after
totally
the season
feasible. It's
ended.
totally
So to
feasible.
know that she was alive and still with the rebels, still working with them, and have her name drop was really awesome. And then now Squadrons is placed right after Battle of Yavin. So again, we want to think about where our original trilogy characters might be at this time. In passing, these characters from the video game have, crossed paths with Vader, or they crossed paths with Wedge Antilles and somebody at
Hmm.
the Rebel base. Like they could easily know who Hera is. Oh, never mind, she's in the game. But they know who
Yeah.
she is, and that entire timeline intertwines with each other. So it's insane. There's so many things that go back and forth and can be brought up in any series.
Hmm.
It's pretty awesome. I love the connection between the video game that you play and the comic book that you read and the book that you read and the show that you watch. I love the connection.
Exactly. And I know we're touching a little bit on like, different characters, different sort types of representation and like new characters in the game. And I'm like really excited for that. I love seeing that. I can't
Yeah,
recall the name. I can't recall the name. I'm not
there's
gonna lie.
there's definitely some like negative like backlash from that, but I don't see how it could hurt. Like
I
it doesn't.
know
Like why
it
not?
doesn't
Like
hurt. And
somebody's pronoun, it was, I have his name here. Kyo Venzi, if that's how you pronounce it. He's a new character in the game, and he's a rebel. He's a pilot, and his pronouns are they, them. The writer of the video game tweeted that their pronouns were they, them. And,
mhm,
some people were like, that's too much information, or it was
they're
unnecessary,
like
but
that's unnecessary, and I'm like, but
why
people
not have
people
it?
in real life exist like that, so why can't they in Star Wars?
Yeah, put
And
them in Star Wars. We have Twi'leks, and how would we address a
the
Twi'lek, or how do we address?
we have aliens, we have humans, we can have multiple genders and multiple like anything. We can have anything. It's Star Wars,
Yes,
guys.
it's
It's a
about
big
time. Like
universe.
we will say every episode probably, but Star Wars is for everybody. So anybody playing the video game sees that representation and is like, oh, that's me, or that's something I identify with. I don't identify with the Twi'lek, but I can identify with Princess Leia. She's like a human like I am. So
Hmm.
it does not hurt to have something like that in there.
And I love how you were just talking about like how stories connect from video games to comic books to the actual books, and they all intertwine. Um, and I recently started researching Jessica Pava, who is in like the Poe Dameron comics, because I
Mhm.
was like, oh, again, representation super important, guys. Like
Yeah.
I'm Vietnamese American. I love Rose Tico. I love Paige Tico, even though she got in the first like 10 minutes. But like it's pretty limited, is what I'm trying to say. So
Yeah.
whenever there's a new character who's kind of like me, I get excited. And I kind of brushed over Jessica because she was like a pilot in The Force Awakens. And then my friend sent it to me, and then they're like, oh, yeah, she's supposed to be like Chinese, like. And I was like, awesome, good enough for me. And I started reading through her stuff, and she's on the same, her commander is Poe Dameron. And like you have more of these connections, and then it doesn't hurt that, that the characters look like me or look like other people. And I think that's so, so important to see. Because now I want to cosplay her, and that Disney, I'm going to be spending more
Even
money in your
exactly.
direction
Even that
because of
too.
that.
Being able to cosplay where you don't have to normally do the character that you kind of don't look like. I mean, if you love them, then of course, by all means,
Yeah,
cosplay them.
absolutely.
But how much more exciting is it when you see a character and you think, oh my gosh, I look just like that character. I could
Yeah.
totally pull it off. I didn't play obviously Fallen Order, but the second sister or one of the Inquisitors, like at the time that the game came out, my hair was a lot shorter. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not
Literally
an
you.
Inquisitor, but I would totally cosplay her. I could see myself in her, and it would be really
Totally
cool.
got
So
that.
it just
Yeah,
makes me
like,
more excited to do it.
and I just want to reiterate, cosplays for everyone. You can cosplay any character you want, but I'm specifically talking about like how it's nice to see yourself on screen or on paper, on comics, or even mentioned in a story. Like I think that's so, so important.
It's super exciting. The Going back to Squadrons because that's the biggest topic this week.
Yep, yep.
The timeline again is after the Battle of Yavin, and the storyline follows. Again, I only know the beginning of it, not too much detail, but an Imperial pilot, he doesn't want to go after the people who had survived from Alderaan.
Hmm.
So people who had got out in time and like shipped out and were able to, take off on their ships. The Imperial pilots were sent to destroy him, take him down. It's the Empire, of course. And then this pilot was not down for that, and he became like a traitor.
He
He
went
said,
rogue.
if it makes me a rebel, then so be it. And it's got that Finn kind of storyline, and it was really cool to see that too because it makes the story way more personal when
Yeah,
you see, when we saw Finn in Force Awakens, a stormtrooper was never so detailed. It was not personal with stormtroopers.
it
They were
wasn't
dying
ever
peasants.
personal. Exactly. That's why I
Yeah,
think it's important to like humanize your villains if you want to make them. They don't necessarily have to be like super relatable, but when it comes to like writing a villain, it's important to make sure that you can recognize, or like going from that villain super flat villain arc to someone who's now a rebel. Like you want them to go through the human emotions that we would go through, like if you're in that situation, and that makes it super relatable, and it just adds to characterization, and people
I
get
was gonna
hooked.
say it makes for such a better character when you can know more about them or know their
Exactly.
background.
And you
It
don't have to
made
know everything. It's just like
yeah,
your intentions are really that's what draws you in, which is really cool.
it made Finn such a layered character, and now for this video game, the storyline, it's making this pilot a layered character, and you think, what are the pilots really thinking? They are really standing with the rebels because they, stand up for what they believe in, and they want to save the galaxy and like free them. And then it's crazy to think the pilots and all the people who are for the Empire really stand and believe in what the Empire is doing.
Yeah.
It's really deep. It's really intense. I love to think about all of that because Battle of Yavin. So their Death Star just exploded, and yet they are so much more greedy for like rebel blood. I was like,
Exactly.
wow, man, these characters. Just makes them so much more layered.
Yeah, and I like the logic of it too, because it's like, well, everyone just died like right there on that, so of course the next logical course of action is just to go after them. So I really like that. It's superhuman, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I got to read more about or watch more what the storyline is
Me
in the
too,
games. But
after I
if
watch
people want to know
Rebels.
about these, want to know about more about these, yes, please watch Finish Rebels. I know I spoiled a lot, but still more goes into
I bet that it's going to take 3 more podcasts
it.
before I say that I'm done.
Well, when we're done, we're gonna have an amazing Rebels episode.
Definitely.
I can talk Rebels all day. Okay, so these characters, they could resurface. It'd be really cool. But of the series that we know we're getting, obviously we're getting the Obi-Wan series. And
Yes.
that
It's
too
been
falls,
confirmed but postponed, right?
yes,
Like
postponed. But
repeatedly.
yeah,
Hurts me every time.
I think they're gonna pick up production in the springtime. Hopefully. I
Is that
think
what
that's
they
what it
said?
was.
Is that what they said last spring?
Yes, this is what they said last spring.
Hurts, guys. That's why I have to hold my baby
It's
Yoda.
so sad.
Hurts so bad.
Do we think for sure Anakin's coming back?
I mean, they better. And if you know what, if they bring them back, what time? Like, what would this be? Older Obi-Wan, or
Yeah, it would
would this
definitely
be
have to
older?
be right before New Hope, I would think, because obviously we
Right.
know where he takes off from there. He
Right.
died, but it's got to be almost in almost before Rebels takes place, because even in Rebels, Obi-Wan is an old man,
Yeah.
and Ewan does
He
not look like
spoiler
that.
alert, Maul.
So
I'm also a
I
Maul lover,
think
guys. I don't know why.
it could take off like right after Order 66, like after he drops Luke off right there in Tatooine, he goes on his merry way. It could pick up right there even. I would not be
um.
surprised. I wouldn't be mad if it took off from there and they show us his entire not life on Tatooine, because I doubt he stayed there. I'm sure he did like little
Yeah,
covert
I feel like it's pretty open
missions.
ended. I'm not familiar if there's any books. You guys, if you want to talk about books or anything, if you're familiar with it, but I don't know about anything comics books related. If anything happens to him, but you have like the super open ended. Like, what does Obi-Wan do? I don't think he stays on Tatooine the entire time either. So,
He
because
just
that place
retires
is
and
boring
just
as
hangs
hell.
out. It's just about a show about retirement. And he's just hanging out in the sand, scaring
The
sand
daily
people.
life of Obi-Wan the moisture farmer.
Probably old Ben Kenobi. I think we could definitely flashbacks of Anakin. He doesn't ever face Vader until later on, so I feel like we can, if anything, because we'll still have like, if they did it in the present time, we'd have like burnt up Anakin, but they sense each other through the Force, like far away from each other. I think that'd be a really cool scene to have, and
Hmm.
Anakin would just be like full of prosthetic makeup, and he's just kind of burned up, but he, looking out the window in his ship, and he senses Obi-Wan. I think that'd
Yeah,
be really cool to see. And if not, then we get flashbacks to the Clone Wars, and Anakin can be in full Clone War.
I
That's probably what.
would scream. The thought of Hayden Christensen as live action like
Clone
Clone
Wars
Wars
Anakin.
Anakin, sign me
I
up.
don't think. Yeah, I
Sign
don't
me
know if
up.
we'd all be able to handle that.
I wouldn't be able to handle it, guys. I'd also
With
be
like
super
long
broke. Can you imagine? Oh my god.
hair,
This is the
figures.
thing about cosplay. Every time there's a new thing, it's like like interested in a character, or if you're like me, attracted to a character, and you're like, I want to be you. And this happens every single time. The We Are Broke tag is gonna start soon. I'm just saying.
Soon. I feel like it's been here.
It's
I mean,
been
you can
here.
even do like the gender bender of like a girl dressing up as Anakin from Clone. Like I could just think of the endless cosplay possibilities.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my gosh.
And since we're getting Rosario Dawson in season 2 of Mando, I mean, she could even be picked up and thrown into a flashback. I don't know if she'd be able to play younger Ahsoka.
If
She could
not,
probably
Laura Harrier. I love her.
yes. She's been
She's so
fantastic
cute.
for sure, and I was like, nah, she's timeline wise, she would not be able to play Ahsoka because she's not old enough. But if we do
Yeah,
flashback to
but
Obi-Wan,
like
she could
younger.
play her. That'd
Yeah,
be really awesome.
absolutely.
I think that'd be really good. Obi-Wan, I mean, just have to wait and see. We'll be waiting for a while, but I think there's a lot they could do with it, and it'd be cool to see him go on missions and stuff. But he just have
Hmm.
to slowly get into older man robes. We have to see the
Yes.
transition of robes. I think that'd be really cool.
Gotta lose the young Obi tunic. I think it'd be cool to kind of see like if they do the Clone Wars thing. If you guys are familiar with the end of Clone Wars, not season 7, but the end of season 6, when Yoda, not this one, when Yoda goes to basically train to be a Force ghost. Because he's like, all right, basically shit's happening soon. I have to learn how to like astral project myself when I die, and so that's what he does. And I can't really recall the name, but like, that'd be really interesting too. It's a hazy memory for me, but I will vaguely describe it. It's like those 10 like floating force spirit ladies, and they all got like different faces on. It's very scary. I think I was like 10 when I saw it. Scariest shit ever. But I would love to see that live action. I think that'd be really cool, like him doing force stuff, even if it's just alone. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be with other.
I can
I
for
just
sure
want
see a lot
Obi-Wan.
of Force flashbacks. I don't mind it. Anything in live action during the Clone Wars era would be really cool to see. So flashbacks or present, and then we go back to present time, and he's just hanging on Tatooine, or maybe he goes around and does like really small covert missions to help rebel bases here and there, help them set up.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, yeah, he could be helping the rebels without really being
Obi-Wan's
in the
fulcrum.
middle of it. Yeah, right. So like Ahsoka, they could still be in contact for sure. I could see then like Ahsoka is actually going in with the rebels and dropping off things and giving them information and sending them in the right direction and all that stuff. But she could be also getting her information from Obi-Wan or getting advice from Obi-Wan. I think that'd be really
Mm-hmm.
cool. And speaking of
Man,
rumored spinoff, the Rebels spinoff, if we get it, would be. I know we already kind of touched on it. Would
I
just be
love how excited you are
amazing.
for Rebel stuff. This is just great to watch, honestly.
Yes, that
I
show
love seeing it.
that show makes me so emotional. I just love it so much. I think I just cry all the time when I'm watching it because it's so powerful. Everything Ezra goes through, not just like him being a brat because he was a teenager and he like didn't want to listen to Kanan, didn't want to follow the rules, like him
The
being
reason why I couldn't stand season 1 and 2, guys.
yes, like he had to go through, puberty and he was like a little punk and he was annoying,
He
but
took too long.
it's so powerful to see him grow up and learn and go through everything he did and
And then become bald for a little bit.
he was, he did go through some interesting haircuts, but him being so powerful with the dark side and the light,
That's something I loved. Because and it reminded me of Ray too, like where it's not like, oh, I'm all good, I'm all light side and stuff, which is not, not every single person's like that. And so I really loved that they did that even with the kids show, and they still touched on it. They're like, he's like, I'm learning from a Sith holocron. That was season 3, guys. I do remember. I do
wow.
remember. But he was learning from a Sith holocron, so he's learning both sides, and he's learning both sides of the Force, which is really interesting because it's like, I know gray Jedi aren't really like a thing; those aren't canon. But like, it's not, for a moment he's not either. Like
Yes,
he's not entirely either.
he's both a kid and new to the Force and just so confused. So for
And like you
Kanan,
said, puberty.
yes, like he was just going through it really, and for him to have gone through that at such a young age. I mean, he was perfect age to be like a Padawan. He wasn't a kid, but Kanan took him on pretty early.
Mm-hmm.
And he went through a lot in Rebels, like emotionally, mentally, through the Force, and with his family, like the Rebels,
Yeah.
and everything on Lothal, all that stuff. He went through it. But now to see him in a live action, if it were like to be live action, I would love it to be animated as well. But if it was live action and we see Ezra as an adult, like how powerful he could be, and maybe we didn't see him. Obviously, we didn't get him in the original trilogy, and
Yeah.
he was a character that came on later. It would be really cool to see where exactly he was during the time of Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We got a lot
I'd love
of
to see
spin-off
that.
would be awesome. Yeah,
I
spin-off.
love characters that are not either or. Like I mean, we both love Ben Solo because boy's got the energy. He's a little bit confused. He was getting manipulated by Snoke. If you guys read the comics, it's like low key horrifying how that happened. But I love characters who are like, all right, let me dip into this side to, and it's kind of like again intent. It's like I want to get what I want, uh, whether it's like that one mission with Maul for Ezra or Rey trying to figure out her family before we knew that she was a Palpatine. Rey trying to figure out her lost family and delving into the dark side. And I think that is, I keep saying that's so cool. It's hard for me to exactly dictate
Or put into
how much I
words
care about it.
how awesome these characters are.
Literally.
Yeah, we love to see a confused character. It just makes a more interesting story. It makes for a more interesting character when they're just not 100% sure where they want to go.
Because not everyone's perfect, and I love that.
And it's really, I mean, we have uh, Obi-Wan, and he's 100%, the Force, and like,
I can go
follow the Jedi Council and all that stuff. But
to
then
a
you have,
fault, but I love Obi-Wan so much.
and
Like,
then you have all your confused character, your Rey, your Luke, all these people who are new to the Force, and we're like, wait,
mhm.
what side do I really want? What do
And
I
like,
know?
okay, this is slightly a tangent, but with like Obi-Wan and stuff, like he followed the Jedi Order to the very last moment, like to the very last moment. And there were so many traumatic things that happened to Obi-Wan, like so many traumatic stuff that just happened to him. Like with, if you watch Clone Wars, you know that he was in love with Satine and Satine was in love with him, cried. By the way, I did. He did too.
Always.
Um,
That's like a given.
it hurt so much. He lost Satine, he lost Qui-Gon. Like so much happens to him. But yet he doesn't stray from the light side. He never strays. And I think that's what, again, you have the contrast. You have where all this stuff happens to Obi-Wan, but he still stays strong. And with Anakin, all this stuff happens to him, and then he ends up getting manipulated, and then he ends up falling to the dark side.
He lets it consume him, and he
Mm-hmm.
definitely wasn't confused by the time he realized how in love he was with Padme, and he wanted to save the people that he loved. But even Obi-Wan, like, he couldn't have saved Satine. Like, it's so
And if
sad.
you think about it, like if he had left the Jedi Order and stuff and went with Satine, like would he have been happy?
I don't know.
That
I'm
hurts
trying to think.
so
I'm
much.
thinking about it. Like, Obi-Wan, I mean, he could have been happy, but he
Is ultimately a Jedi.
yes, and that's what he's meant for. That's what he was destined to do. That's what he trained for. That's what he's there. And he might love Satine, but he thinks of the galaxy and others before him.
Mm-hmm.
And versus, again, Anakin, he was only thinking of himself and for Padme, and he was being greedy, which leads to the dark side.
But when you think about it, it's superhuman. Like
Oh, well,
it's
yeah,
definitely
definitely.
human. I'd save Natalie Portman. She's I'd save Natalie Portman, guys. Absolutely, 100%. I'd
I
go
would
to the
hope
dark side for her.
I think that's a lot of people justifying Anakin and his actions. Like, well, it was Natalie Portman, so we'll allow the time. So it's interesting to think of where Ezra could be. I
Mm-hmm.
think he's for sure losing Kanan was a pivotal moment for him, almost like solidifying his side to the light side.
Yeah.
And it'd be really cool to see if he ever even continued with like the Force and trained with it, and just kind of like cut himself off from the Force, or what. So he didn't really leave on a negative note from the show anyway. So it's not like he
Mm-hmm.
would have been in a bad place when he left. But if we ever see that Sabine and Hera and her son find Ezra, that'd be a really amazing moment. So I think that
Yeah.
spin-off would be really awesome.
And it's a similar path when it comes to Star Wars, like with Luke, something traumatic happened to him, so he shut himself off from the Force. I do want to see how other characters react to that same trauma of loss. Because we don't, I mean, we see that a lot, but like, it's cool to see other characters,
It's
guys.
a lot of loss.
Every single Jedi loses something, whether it's a hand or like whatever, like they lose something, you know?
I guess it's a rite of
A
passage
lot
to
of
be
them lose their
Jedi.
father figures, like that's
Oh.
yikes.
Yeah, oh man. Yeah, Kanan lost his Jedi master.
And then Ezra lost his Jedi master,
I mean, he
and then
lost his parents too.
and Ezra is an orphan.
I mean, they all got it pretty rough.
Dude, step one of being a Jedi is literally like just being an orphan. And if you're like a Jedi, like sorry, being light side, I mean, but like if you're like a regular Jedi, like you pretty much just get put into this academy where you never see your family again. And that's what happened to Obi-Wan. Like Obi-Wan had like his family was alive. But like I don't someone explain to me. Actually,
I
no,
know. I
explain to me.
mean,
I will search this later.
I was gonna say, I was like, well, it's harder because the stories and the timeline that we get when we fall into the prequels and the original and the sequels, all of them have become more human or like have adapted to the environment around them. Only because Jedi have pretty much lost their ways after Order 66 because there were hardly any left. So it was hard to stay so loyal and true to the Jedi Order or even the will of the
Because you would
Force.
get murked if you
Because
were.
even the will of the Force, it was hard to follow along. Luke was complaining and didn't understand when like Yoda was trying to train him, and Rey just didn't know where she belonged and everything and what her purpose was.
Yeah,
And
and for Rey,
following like
it's
the
almost like
Force.
fantasy too, because it's like the Jedi or an ancient order that no one knew that they were training on that island, like with Kylo Ren and stuff. So it was just like a super, uh, the idea of it, the concept of Jedi and stuff is super far off. It's like fantasy. It's like so it's kind of interesting because she's like, what, like it's kind of like what the hell is this?
When generations, like thousands of generations ago, there was a purpose. Like obviously, everybody jokes that kids who have high metachlorian counts are like sensitive with the Force were kidnapped and brought to the academy. I was like, haha, like yes, I guess you could see it like that, but it was like a general recruitment of anybody who was sensitive to the Force because they were the protectors. They were protectors of the peace. They were gonna watch over the galaxy. That was the whole point. Like if you were sensitive to the Force, it was almost like your fate and like your place in the universe, your place in life
It's your
to
duty whether you like it
yes,
or
your duty
not,
to
which is
protect
sucky.
the galaxy, but it's not a bad job, right? You're keepers of the peace. You're not a soldier. You're not, out to kill people. You're out to do good deeds. And, the empire and things like that, there's always been Sith, but there hasn't been an empire until way later on, until Palpatine created things and put things in motion. But where the High Republic came in, all these guys that's their heyday. Those were the big shining moment for these Jedi was being peacekeepers and only ever
Only
being
peacekeepers,
yeah, only ever
and not
fighting.
not like fighting in a war, like
Yeah,
Clone Wars,
only
which
ever
is
fighting when it
yeah.
fought off evil or something.
And I'd argue that the purpose of Clone Wars is kind of to show the darker sides of the Jedi, which I think they do an excellent job at.
Yeah, I mean,
In Dave Filoni, we trust, guys. Just saying,
always, always.
always.
So the stories we get involve families and romance and friendships, but because it tests them and they just stray further and further away from, the way the Jedi used to be, or even the will of the Force, and that's where Qui-Gon comes in, but he was very, very tied to the will of the Force. But that kind of transitions to where our new trilogy could be. I mean, again, the ideas and the storylines are endless, but I think because Disney is kind of pushing the High Republic books that are going to be coming out,
Cash
yes, they're like, hey, let's introduce these characters and this
yeah.
era because who knows, maybe that could be the timeline we get in the next trilogy. I think that'd be really cool. Knights of the Old Republic. I think we see like the High Republic Jedi's. I think it'd be really cool to see that era. And it obviously is not going to do anything with the Skywalkers and maybe, I mean, no Empire really. So we
Yeah.
just have to deal with Sith and we have plenty of Sith to go back from and use. So I think it'd be really
I
Sith.
I know we were like talking about what we want in Mandalorian last time, so I'm going to take this moment to say what I would want in a future Star Wars film, what I hopefully film live action. I just want a lady Sith, a Sith lady, a badass Sith lady live
Get
action,
some Darth
guys.
Vader.
Like a formidable, I just that's it. That's all I want, guys. Thank you.
I mean, it popped up on, social media the other day, the rumors of a Darth Bane movie, and that probably just comes straight from fans because fans have been wanting that forever. And
We're trying to will it into existence, guys.
Taika Waititi is getting his own movie, which is awesome. There's going to be some good, subtle humor in there because Ragnarok was so funny. And
Ragnarok is this is a Star Wars podcast, but Ragnarok is my favorite MCU movie.
we
It's like
love
my
Ragnarok.
feel
So
good movie.
imagine Taika Waititi bringing that energy from Ragnarok into a Star Wars story.
Yeah, and guys, if you don't like Taika and you think that Ragnarok doesn't work with Star Wars, well, he did Mandalorian anyway, like episode 1. Episode 1? He did something. But yeah, he did Mandalorian.
And he was the IG. So like he's
Yes.
funny. He knows Star Wars. He knows his stuff. I think he's a great addition to directing and behind the camera. So I'm excited for the movie he get. Maybe he gets a Sith movie, and I don't mind if that had a little bit of humor in it. But if we got ancient Sith and like old Sith, it'd be
Like
really
on
cool.
Korriban, right? That's where they had
I think it'd
the
be
Sith
really
time.
cool to see that. And then maybe a trilogy of the High Republic.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
I would love to see that era. I would love to see all these thousands of Jedi thriving and keeping the peace. Obviously, we have no battle against the Empire, but they would have Sith to fight or some army put together that obviously didn't last long or died out. But there's plenty of battles that they could fight in that time. So I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know what they need, but it'd be really cool to be introduced to some new Jedi. And then on the opposite side, in present day, Mandalorian season 2, and we mentioned it that we are reintroduced to the Force because Mando has no idea what it is. So
Exactly.
Mandalorian is still going on, and he's just discovering who the Jedi are. In 2 years. When is the next trilogy? It's like 2022.
I don't know. They keep postponing because of everything that's happening, but I think 2022, I want to say.
Something around there. We get the start of our new trilogy, and we get some brand new, like maybe the beginning of the Jedi, like all the way back. That'd be insane.
That would be. I keep saying cool, guys. I need to switch it up, but I'm so excited. I'm so excited for that.
We just have so much coming our way. It's insane.
Yeah, we just have to get through this year because everything got postponed this year. So.
And then our Star Wars celebration got postponed
Yep.
2 years later. So
Oh wow.
I think by then we'll hopefully have a lot for them to drop like on us, like a lot of news.
I'm gonna be on some serious con crunch until 2022, apparently, guys. I don't know if I'll be able to make it and make my costume in time, but we'll see, I guess. I'll have plenty of time to figure out who I want to be.
True.
Mainly
Again,
Maz and Ahsoka. Maz and Ahsoka.
yes, we can both be Maz.
I
We
could
can have two
totally
little
Ahsoka
Maz
could totally
members.
be alive at the same time because Togruta has lived like until like
Oh yeah,
200 something years.
yeah. I mean, Maz is the new sequel trilogy, and Ahsoka. I mean, she could be an old lady, but
She could
they
be
could
an
be
old.
like old ladies together.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I'm
That'd be
looking
cool.
forward to
Both be
it.
old. That'd be really fun. So yeah, I care very much about the timeline. If anything, I'm just really feel like I'm really intense about it, really passionate about it
I love
because
it though.
you can have so many people intertwined.
But
The
this is
way
like,
like Clone Wars, the way
yeah,
Clone Wars and Rebels will have like Easter egg guests, and you see Mon Mothra or like Bail Organa in Rebels. Like you have all these people just drop in, and you're like, oh my god, they knew each other for a second, they spoke to each other for a second. I think it's really exciting.
literally, that is literally how I feel. And I'm like less aware about like timeline stuff. I'm like, all right, cool, that happens at that time. Like I have like a vague understanding of things because we all know I'm here for Mando season 2, and that is I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I love Star Wars, guys. I love Star Wars. But it's cool to hear you talk about it because I'm like, not that I'm like less informed, but I'm like it's cool to hear when someone knows what they're talking about. if that makes
I
sense.
feel like I live in the timeline. What timeline would I live in?
Which one would you
From
want to
the
live in?
prequel to the sequel? Oh my god.
Wait, hold on. I gotta think. I've answered this before, but now I want to change it.
I think, hmm, I think the sequel era would be cool to live in only because it's still like myth or like it's after the entire empire, but then you have First Order. So I guess I
There's
wanted to not
always some
be.
sort of thing going on with some sort
And
of
then
planet killing thing.
if you're in between like Order 66 and Battle of Yavin, if you're in between Revenge of the Sith and New Hope, then you're under Empire's rule wherever you're living, unless you're
Yeah.
like outskirts, outer rim.
Um, I think you guys know my answer. I picked it like after I realized I'm holding Baby Yoda. I'd pick Mando's whatever timeline that is, so I can babysit Baby Yoda
True.
and I can help him out, and I could live on the Razor Crest. There's room for me. I don't take up that much space, guys. And that's the time. That's my answer. That's the timeline I'd be in. Yes,
Actually,
I'd
that'd be a
probably
really good.
die, but like it'll be worth it.
No, actually, that'd be a really good timeline to live in because the Empire had just been defeated. You don't have the First Order yet. You don't have any kind of like imperial rule over you
There's
or
like
First
a
Order
is
rule
there
over
like
you.
kind of like a is it like a power vacuum or who's in charge? Like they're like I know that they mentioned they're like uh what is it? What's the
So we have
government?
Moff Gideon. Well, yeah, there's
What's the government
Moff.
currently in charge during Mandalorian? It's on the tip of my
Well,
tongue. Oh my gosh, guys, this is the fake Star Wars fan right here. I'm kidding. No one's a
but
fake Star Wars
they have like very little control
fan.
over
Yeah,
the
it's
planet.
basically like a power vacuum. Like they're like, oh, you can take it up to the is it Republic? Is it Republic? I'm gonna grab my blaster and shoot myself in the foot if it's the Republic. uh, whatever the name is, but like it's kind of like a power vacuum. Like things don't get done in the government. The Empire's there but not there. If they're like they're gone, but they're clearly not gone. Excited for season 2. But yeah, that's where I'd be.
Yeah, all night. I feel like now I'm gonna be thinking about it all night because I don't have like a solid answer
It's
of
gonna
what
bother
timeline
me.
I'd want to be. It's gonna bother
I'm
me.
I'm
I
gonna
would
go
have to make
rewatch Mando season 1 again.
I have to make like a pro and con list of every era or like every time zone or timeline like to have lived in. There's so many pros and cons to each one. Because I do not want to be under Empire rule or First Order rule.
I
But I
feel like
want that idea.
there's always some sort of thing going on. Like there's always someone with a big ass planet blowing thing taking up space somewhere. So
Or maybe
you can
on
pick Vader or
Tatooine.
Hux and Snoke.
You know what? Okay, again I'm drawing off this conversation because I keep thinking about it. But Phantom Menace era, because you don't have the Empire yet. I mean, I guess I'd want to die before the Empire took over and before Order 66. But
Damn, it's kind of funny.
I don't want to be into that. But I can go to pod races on Tatooine
Of course you would.
and not.
Of course you would.
There's still Jedi around, and I don't have to deal with bucket heads, no stormtroopers. I think that's like a perfect era. There's the Republic. There's the New Republic later on, but like the Republic, they were corrupt as well. But
Yeah.
if I lived on like Naboo because Queen Amidala would be in charge.
Yes. And she was like
Wow, I really have to go to the drawing board
yeah,
because
I'm gonna go to sleep thinking about this, guys. I am actually surprised, Clarissa, you didn't say sequel like that area because Babu Frick is alive during that. Wouldn't you
that's what
want
I
to
was.
be friends with Babu Frick? You're
Yes, I want to like
you're
fix
Babu
stuff with
Frick.
him. I
You
want
can
to
like
be like, hey, and just fix things with him. And just like yell with him all day long. But there's the First Order, and I wouldn't want to be under that reign. Hux is pretty crazy, so
I feel
he's
like
blowing up.
I feel like we need to dedicate an episode to like what could happen after the rise of Skywalker because you have this massive power vacuum, and there's no leadership because all the leadership is dead. All the First Order leadership is pretty much dead, right?
Well, they're just trying to take over rule because there's
Yeah.
still like
I'm on a tangent, guys. I'm on a tangent.
there's still command, on planets. There's still certain leader. They were just under the thumb of the First Order.
Yeah. So now it's like.
But I know I'd want to be a rebel, like not a pilot because I'd get dizzy. Obviously, that's why I don't play Squadrons. I
I can't be a pilot because I can't play Squadrons. I love that. I love it so
I
much.
wouldn't pass the test at all, like the simulation test,
I would
I'd be like
purposely
throwing.
fail because I know that pilots don't last very long.
I'd be the guy like on Yavin with the little like radar thing, and he's watching the ships come in. I'd be that
Yes,
guy because I'd just like be
absolutely.
posted up all day. I'd still
Dude,
be a rebel. I'm
I
just
wouldn't
doing
I
my job.
wouldn't I wouldn't even be a rebel or work for the Empire or work for the First Order. I would just, be uh, Baby Yoda's babysitter, guys. I get commissioned to hang out with him and make sure that he doesn't die. And I don't know,
I'd
F
have
with
to be
Mando's
involved
ship.
somehow. I'd have to be involved somehow. I couldn't like sit around the galaxy and just be like, well, you win today, they win tomorrow kind of mentality.
Heck no,
I
that's not me either. I just want to like stay alive. I just want to stay alive. That's my viewpoint. And if that means
I'll be
staying
on a
alive
rebel
on
base,
Mando's ship, then that's what that is.
and that counts. Yeah. So I mean, somewhere in this whole tangent, there's a timeline that they could totally go with.
Yes,
If they
yes.
cast me and they just like let me choose what time period I want to live in, then there you go. That's a whole new Star Wars movie.
I know. I love that though. I love that.
Why not? They seriously can. I mean, I don't want to say just make something up as they go, but because there's books that they could totally go off of. There's Lost Stars, which I will never stop talking about because it's such an amazing story. I don't know if I would want to see that made because I feel like they'd not
I'm
ruin it, but I'd
not
see it.
familiar with it, so feel free to explain it.
It's a kind of friends to lovers to enemies kind of story.
I
It's
love that so much. I immediately I have no idea who's in it. Sorry guys, fake Star Wars fan.
no, not a lot of people have read it. That's why it's like this is actually it's Star Wars Reads Month. It's
Hmm.
read a Star Wars book month or comic book. So I highly encourage everybody to go read Lost Stars. They also came out with a 2-part or 3-part manga for the story. So I own them. It's a
How
really
come
cool
I
thing.
didn't know about this?
It's amazing story. These two kids, they grow up together and they both want to join the Empire. And then the guy doesn't want to. So Thane, Kyrell, and Sienna Ree. The guy realizes really quickly that, the Empire is not good. And he realizes that he doesn't want to be a part of the Empire. And so he goes rogue and becomes a pilot for the rebels.
Mhm.
But Sienna stays and moves up in rank with the Empire. And they were best friends and loved each other. And then they became like enemies because they were both on opposite sides. It's an
But
amazing
the love is
story.
still there.
Yes, but
Clarissa's knowledge of Star Wars continues to astound me, guys,
they
because
stand on different parts of the universe, and it's an amazing story. So I would love to see that be made into a movie or like a show or something. It's so good.
I love anything enemies to lovers. Like I mentioned last time, 2015 Raylo. Just because
Oh,
I
that was the time.
was like tension and with a lot of when it comes to like Asian dramas and stuff, having the enemies to lovers is a very common trope. And so I was like, I love this. And then everyone's like, you're toxic. And I was like, oh.
And then this one goes backwards because you're like,
Friends.
oh my god, they're meant to be together.
And
Totally, they
I
love each
love
other, and they knew each other all their lives, and now like. Do you hate them or do you want to blow them up because you love them and you spend their whole life with them? But he stands for different things than the Empire does and then that the rebellion does. Oh, it's so good.
so good.
That's my recommendation for the day because it's
Thank
such a
you
good
so
book.
much for the recommendation.
So that's it for today for us.
Yeah.
We want to end it by saying read a Star Wars book or read a Star Wars comic.
I'm gonna go do that.
We have 100 timelines for you guys to consider and think about. If we didn't mention one, we'd love to hear from you guys. Reach us on social media and let us know any comments, any feedbacks about today. And then if there's again, timeline or something that you guys wanted to see in a show or in a spinoff in a movie that we didn't cover, we could totally talk about it in the next episode.
Yeah, I'm so down. I'm so down. I know we're gonna have a Rebels episode. We will have a Rebels episode.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
will finish it. I know this was kind of a Rebels episode, but you guys are wrong. This was not. Not even
I feel
close.
like every day could be a Rebels episode.
Not even close to how hard we're gonna go in on Rebels because I will finish it eventually.
And we are counting down the days to Mandalorian season 2. We are so
Almost
excited,
there,
and
guys.
we'll be breaking down episodes each week for that as well.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you guys next week.
Echo Base, prepare for incoming transmission. Tauntalk is produced by the Nerdy Bunch, Clarisa Hernandez and Isabelle. Our producer and sound engineer is Ivan Gonzalez. Music by Christian Bugzeek. For more information regarding our social media, please check out our website, www.mynerdybunch.com. Echo Base ending transmission, and may the Force be with you.
Hey everybody, it's Clarissa.
And Isabelle?
Join us next week for the season finale of The Nerdy Bunch as we both host live on video Star Wars A New Hope.
May the Force be with you.